in Jersey, just heading to Bronx now, and I was thinking about doing a video about the KLR and do I miss it or not. The answer to that question is yes and no. Definitely, in some situations, I miss the KLR. Like something like this, like a highway. The KLR is real nice for that. It's really a cruising machine, actually, for the East Coast. But you know, when I lived in Cali, I used to commute. For like 3 months, I commuted up for a work project up in Santa Barbara from LA, and I did it on the KLR, and it was getting old quick, you know, like, because cruising on a single cylinder on the 101 for 60 miles each way kind of grows on you after a while. I mean, it makes you a little upset, you know, it was just a little too much. But it wasn't horrible, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. I mean, I'd rather be on a leader bike. But, you know, the problem is, like, CHP, and there's a lot of motorcycle cops in Cali, cruising on a leader bike has its own evils. You know, like, cruising around on a leader bike there, you're going to be tempted to use the power of the bike. You're going to way exceed, but they're going to pull you over, you know, because if you're doing, like, 100 and over on a bike there, you catch the eye of a highway cop and you're done, you know. And in LA, it's not easy to shake highway patrol. They're experts at that shit, man. They got that shit down to a fucking science, man. They'll put up a chopper in minutes. So in LA, the only thing you can do if you're trying to shake a cop, you can probably shake an LA cop, but you're gonna have to do it really quick before they get highway patrol involved. Because once they get highway patrol involved, you're done. They have the means to catch you, and they'll do it. For them, they take it personal. I mean, they take it really personal, actually. A highway cop, you're trying to jump on him, he's gonna be like, fuck that. You know, that's like their job, man. They catch people violating laws on the freeway, and they'll do just about anything. The only time I ever saw a guy on a bike lose highway patrolman on a motorcycle was like a messenger guy in LA. He did like an insane move on the 110 freeway, and the 110 freeway is pretty tight. Like, it's not really a good freeway to lane split on, and he just turned between some cars at an insane speed. Like, he literally drove between the cars that had stopped traffic like at 80 miles an hour. Like, it was literally, there was just no room for error. Like, if anybody came over, anybody put their arm out the window or did anything, he would have been done. Like, he would have been tumbling at 80 miles an hour, so it wouldn't have been pretty. But getting back to my point about missing the KLR is a highway beast. You know, it's a highway beast here in the East Coast. It's got the power and the means to really through freeway miles, or I should say highway miles, because they don't call them freeways here on the East Coast. And it'll down through them, man. If you got to go upstate or whatever you got to do, and you'll stay fairly warm on the bike. Your legs don't really catch much wind. Whereas on this XR, I got this windscreen, and I had to upgrade the tank. You cannot use an XR in stock form to replace a KLR. I basically retrofitted this bike just to get it so I could, take over the function of the KLR. It's definitely not a slouch. I mean, this bike can handle pretty much whatever you throw at it. This XR will do the job. I mean, I retrofitted it to replace my KLR because my KLR got totaled, and it was totaled in such an unexpected way. It wasn't even totaled. Like, the bike was totally fine. But these beat cops on 14th Street, when I went down, when I hit that cyclist, they're like, the bike's got to be towed. And I was like, why? And they were like, it's got to be towed. And I kept saying why, and they said, listen, man, you want to carry this to another level? We'll impound the bike. And I was like, all right, just tow it. And then they towed it, and once they towed it, when I called the tow place, they were like $1,500, and I was like, oh boy. So I knew what was going on, because police make a little extra money from the towing. So I didn't really fight it. I talked about it in my videos in infinitum. And it is what it is. I mean, there was nothing I could do about it. They towed my bike and they wanted $1,500, and that was that day. And the next day was going to be $250 more. So, and when I asked the cops, we're going to tow it, how much is it going to cost? And they said $300. So once I gave, like I said, please don't tow it. Just pick it up and put it, because they picked it up and they put it right next to a subway stop. And they were like, it's in the way. No, someone's going to steal it. We'll be responsible. They kept giving me excuses. I said, I'll have someone come pick it up right now. They're like, no, we got to tow it. And I'm like, all right. So there was not much I could do about it. And they towed it. And the amount was insane. So that was it. I mean, I would have had someone pick it up that night, and I actually did. I asked my neighbor. I said, hey, listen, man, the guy with the Ninja. I said, can you go pick up my KLR? I went down, and I had 6 broken ribs, so there's nothing I could do. I couldn't drive, you know. And he was like, "Yeah, oh man, I'll go right now." And he suited up, and he was gonna take his Ninja down there so he could get down there quick. He said, "I think I better take the Ninja so they don't take it." And then, as luck would have it, he was just going down the stairs, and the GPS alarm went off on the bike, showing it moving. And I was like, I yelled to him, I was like, "Dude, the bike's moving, forget it." And we watched it move all the way to Astoria, Queens. It was quick too at that point. So that was the end of that. Rescuing the bike like that wasn't going to happen, and I gave up at that point. So yeah, at that point I gave up and just let it go. But you know, I was pretty upset about that, because generally you don't want to have your bike towed in New York, because it's going to get fucked up or it's going to get gone. And that's what happened to my bike. It got gone, you know, that was the end of that. No, I didn't mean to be an asshole there blowing that light, but in the Bronx, general rule, don't sit at intersections, especially ones like that where you're turning left. It's a good way to get killed. So yeah, they got that bike, they took it, and there was no getting it back. I mean, at that point, I tried talking to the tow company. Hey man, you know, my neighbor's here, he'll go pick it up right now. What's the best you can do for me? I don't want to total the bike. And they were like, "Nah man, you're gonna have to total the bike. You just call your insurance company, tell them where it is, and we'll handle the rest." So that was the end of that. But that KLR just had new tires put on it, new clutch cable, new throttle cable, push and pull, throttle, new speedo cable. Everything was replaced on that thing. It had a new clutch put in, new exhaust, new header. Thanks. Everything was replaced on that. It really hurt to let that bike go. But what are you going to do? You know, I mean, the insurance company gave me full cash out on that. $7,500 for a 2018 KLR. But what are you going to do? I mean, you can't fight it. I mean, I said, what if I don't want to total it? And they're like, well, that's a whole other ball game. They're like, if you don't want to total it, that's totally up to you. But you're not getting paid anywhere near that amount. They were like, you just forget that. where I'm going. So yeah, that was the end of that. They were like, no, it's up to you. And at that point I realized, my hands were tied, so I totaled the bike. But that's where I ended up with using this as my primary bike. The XR became my everything bike, because this bike only rode in the summertime. So the first thing I did was get the A-Service. Actually, the first thing I did was get the windscreen, because the wind on this bike is terrible on the freeway. This windscreen with the little tapered edge here keeps the wind off your chest and midsection. You don't get any wind protection like you do on the KLR for your legs. I had some wind protection with the KLR, when your feet were on the foot pegs. Here they go straight on your legs, so you don't get anything with that. Handguards and heated grips are pretty much the same. Stator doesn't put out as much on this bike, so the handguards do not get as warm. The heated grips don't get as warm on full, but the tank does the job, and the windscreen does the job. The toolbox on the back, bolted into the frame, seems to do the job. I can't carry as much though weight as the KLR, so it remains to be seen whether or not this can replace the KLR. So the answer to the question, do I miss the KLR? Absolutely. It's hard not to miss a KLR. KLR does a lot. It's really a do-everything bike. If you got to get tomorrow, drive to Cali, you could do it on the KLR. This would be a bitch to ride this. How are you going to carry all the gear you need? I don't even know if you could put racks on this bike. So it's not really, you can't replace the KLR with this bike. So that's the gist of it. But it is a great bike. I like the XR, and what the kind of work that I'm doing right now, just going around the city, this is the bike. Alright everybody, see you on the next one. Let me know your thoughts on KLR, and would you get another one? I'd be interested to hear from people. I would not get another one because I'm a little bit upset about the weight increase on the KLR and the new KLR, so I would not get another KLR. I have a lot of KLR parts I'm going to get rid of, because I have a spare brand new tire and stuff. I'm going to get rid of all that stuff, but I would not get another KLR. Actually, I would get a used one if I was. I get a Gen 2 right now, but if you give it one more year to see how those Gen 3s are doing, maybe I would get one. Have to get a little more time to see what's going to happen. With the Gen 3, that's going to be critical for me to see how the Gen 3 does. This decal that I put on the tank, I got it from Rocky Mountain ATV, because it has a perforated, so it doesn't give you problems on a plastic fuel tank, because you can't put graphics on these without having perforated like that. But the tank looked like a big huge white thing. I wasn't into it. Alright everybody, see you on the next one.